Up.
Come on.
Come on. Get it up.
There, come on, Matt.
There you go.
Come on, Joe.
If I was a real fitness YouTuber, this video wouldn't even include me talking. It'd just be 5 minutes of shirtless photos and shitty EDM music. Where the fuck do I put this? So I'm not standing here thinking I'm the most juicy, ripped up guy that's ever existed. In fact, if we're being quite honest, I'm a little bit fluffy right now. That's not the point of this video. My current body composition is for performance in strength sports, mainly strongman. So no, I'm not exactly the bodybuilder type, but I wanted to be very clear with you guys, no smoke and mirrors, and just give you an idea of what my current body comp is like after 6 years of training. This is what I looked like at a sweltering 128, where even a slight breeze could have carried me away when I was really competitive as an endurance runner. What I want to share with you guys is how I went from these two extremes in the sporting world, endurance sports into straight up strength sports, how anyone that wants to get bigger or stronger can do so, and how I believe anyone can do it in about half the time that it took me, because when it gets right down to it, I fucked up. I fucked up a whole bunch. Understand I'm gonna be strictly geared towards getting bigger and stronger, and I'm not promising you anything in terms of aesthetics or just raw sex appeal. Okay, back to 128 pound me. At this point in time, there was no way I could have known that I was gonna have a future in picking up rocks, but life comes at you fast, gang. My main bread and butter skill at this point in time was distance running, which I was okay at. My best 5K time was a 16:46, and my best mile time was a 4:48. To which I already know some runner out there is wanting to comment, "Ha, I ran those times in middle school, you suck." I know you want to, so just comment. Go ahead, do it. Do it. What ended up taking me off the endurance path altogether was I was continuously getting stress fractures in my one shin, which barely allowed me to train, let alone train to a high level. And on top of that, my high school days were coming to an end, so I just decided to hang up the shoes altogether. That being said, I wasn't about to suddenly stop exercising, and like many bros out there, I did have the idea in the back of my head that I wanted to be that big, jacked dude. So in the summer of 2014, I picked up my very first gym membership. What I didn't pick up was a goddamn program. Yeah, the entirety of my first year of lifting was basically me walking into the gym and making things up as I went. This is a decision I made that I still don't understand, because for the 6 years that I was a runner, I was following structured programs. Obviously, I didn't have to make it, our coaches made it for us. But the fact that I went from structured running program and walked into the gym and decided I didn't need a program, yeah, I got nothing for you.
Fuck a beat. I go a cappella.
My training didn't start off with starting strength 5x5. I didn't start off with 5-3-1. I'd equate it most to the bro splits back in the day, you know, something like chest, shoulders, arms, back, legs, all that. But crappy training aside, simply the fact that I was lifting and eating more, I got myself up from that 128 pounds to a still underweight around 150-ish, I'd say. After about a year of being a complete idiot, I did finally get my first real program, and it's something I think a lot of people in the lifting world are familiar with. It was Johnny Candido's free 6-week program. And I think I picked this program because unlike 5x5 and unlike 5-3-1, Johnny's program had something that back then I didn't know about, but I really like today, which is increased frequency on lift and just increased frequency or increased volume overall. You're just doing a lot more work than those other programs, which I love. 5x5 and 5-3-1 never really clicked with me, because if you read into them back then, they made it almost seem that if you were doing 3 sets of deadlift, that was it. You were gonna die if you did more than 3 sets of deadlift. Shit. 5x5 and 5-3-1 never really sat well with me, because if you looked at language they used back then, it made it seem like if you deadlifted more than 3 times, you were going to die, or if you squatted a bunch of times, your CNS was gonna be fried and you'd be done, you'd be set up for injuries, which I never really liked. And don't get me wrong, the programs will work 100%, and 5-3-1 even has addendums to it to make it a better program. I just didn't like them back then, that's all. So I jumped that first strength training hurdle and got myself a legitimate program. Problem was, I was a program hopper. Yeah, the number of times I actually completed the 6-week program all the way through without deviating, I can probably count on one hand. Sorry, Johnny. Like a lot of other young lifters, I had all of the answers to my strength training needs in my hands, but I wasn't satisfied. I had to have the quickest gains possible. I had to have the next best thing. I tried out so many programs. I'd hop from his program onto legs push pull, onto my own version of 5x5, onto other free programs that I found online. I just kept hopping from one program to the next without ever completing them. And I would consider my first 3 years of strength training almost a waste because of all this. Was I gaining muscle? Yes. Was I gaining strength? Yes. But looking at the progress I have now in my last 3 years of training, if I had applied that to my first 3 years of training, where I'd be right now would be significantly different if I had just been mature with my training, actually followed programming, and just stayed the course and completed programs. Being stupid with your first few years of training is almost a rite of passage in this sport, but still guys, the gains that were lost hurts to this day. Took me until around 2017, nearing my end of college experience, that I finally found a system that worked for me and a system that I basically still use to this day regardless of what training goal I have in mind. 2017 is around the time that Alan Thrall really brought barbell medicine into the forefront of the fitness industry, and this was so cool for me. In comes doctors who lift themselves, providing legitimate research against years of bullshit in the fitness industry about how the human body is weak, about different ways that you're gonna get injured because you're deadlifting too much or you're squatting too often. And not only are they providing legitimate research, they're programming into increased frequency with lifts and the increased idea that your body is not this fragile, frail thing, and you can train hard and frequently on compound lifts. Picked up their original 12-week program, and this is the first time I was ever squatting 3 times in a week, deadlifting 2 to 3 times in a week, and almost always benching and pressing around 4 times a week. And with all this increased frequency, I wasn't getting injured. I was seeing progress week to week that I had never seen before. I was even coming in with a swagger because I knew I was going to PR that next week. It wasn't even a question. The other big thing that changed was my mentality about my body composition. This was around the time when I stopped giving a damn about being so lean all the time. I had let that become a part of my mentality because I was a runner. I was always a very low body fat percentage, and it kind of prevented me from gaining weight to get bigger, to get stronger, and to actually build some muscle. So anytime I'd see that body fat start to creep up, I'd immediately cut, and this basically led me in the circle of gaining 10 pounds and losing 10 pounds and not going anywhere. Leaning full tilt into just slowly and progressively gaining weight was huge for my strength gains as well, because now I was actually getting bigger, I was providing my body the nutrients it needed to get stronger, and I wasn't worried about cutting all of the time. In fact, since that time in 2017, it has been 3 years since I've done any cuts. I've just progressively kept gaining weight, and I'm now doing a cut right now because I don't have any competitions because of quarantine, and I have the time to lose some weight and then gain some quality muscle afterwards. The final piece of this puzzle: how does a distance runner become a strongman competitor? As it would happen right as I was leaving college, a gym owner by the name of Joey Zatmary would put out a coaching internship request for his gym, the Lion's Den Elite Training, which just happened to be 10 minutes away from my childhood home. And this, I would say, was the final piece of my transformation. This is kind of when I finally went from I'm no longer a runner, I am a lifter. Up to this point, I had always trained in commercial and college gyms. I was always by myself, just wearing my headphones, training by myself. And now I'm thrust into an environment where everyone's cheering each other on. You're socializing with everyone in the gym. No one in our gym wears headphones. And I'm also being exposed to elite levels of lifting, just things I haven't seen done before in person, which pushed my training to the next level. This is also where I'd end up picking up the sport of strongman. Strongman's a huge part of our gym and our gym culture. We are the dominant gym for strongman in our area in terms of the equipment we can provide and the level of coaching we can provide, with coaches having been in the sport themselves and in the sport to a high level. It took me about a year of figuring out the techniques and the implements themselves, and I hopped into my very first strongman competition. Here I thought my first competition was always going to be a powerlifting one, but I did strongman and I haven't looked back. Since then, I've been able to learn from so many dominant athletes in the strongman community. Obviously, Joe himself is the USS national champ in the heavyweight division, and it's awesome to have his support all the time. I've learned from Brian Allshrew and his team Neversate. Shout out to Olu for fixing my log form. I've learned from Alan Thrall directly, and we have so many competitors rolling in and out of our gym that I get to train alongside of them, learn the ins and outs of the sport, and see high-level competitors. We have national competitors, we have competitors going to OSG and international events, so it's super cool to have that community in our gym. The Lion's Den and picking Strongman as a sport is where I really rounded out my transformation. It gave me that last bit of edge that my training needed, and it gave me something that I was sorely missing with my training, which was just training purpose. This has helped me kind of curve away from just training to look better in pictures or look better for a certain someone out there, and just train so I'm bigger and stronger to be better in a sport that I really enjoy competing in. This endeavor simply isn't worth it if you aren't coming into the gym each day and enjoying what you are doing. I think too many people set up this idea that if I get this ideal physique, if I finally become the big, strong dude, I'm gonna be happy. And that's a surefire way to set up unhealthy mental habits and an unhealthy relationship with lifting in general. At the end of the day, you should be training for the simple fact that you love training. And yeah, that's basically how a skinny endurance runner goes to a not so skinny strongman competitor. That'll be all for this one, gang. Thanks so much for watching. I really hope you all are doing well and hanging in there in this time. Hope to see you all in future videos. Catch y'all later.